This is the intro by Don, and it's going to keep going on because I'm not going to edit and make it really cool. And we're in. Right, guys and girls and people and humans and awesome individuals. Welcome back to the Identity Human podcast. So guys, this is episode number 10. How cool is that? Like, we just keep flowing. Essentially, we've habit stacked off our Tuesday night streams, and now we're doing it live. So we have some people watching the stream live. They're going to help me out in case I need any information. Now, what I've got is I've got this new camera called a hover cam, and I got it off an auction site because, you know, why would you not get it something off an auction site if it can come for £20 and it's worth 150? And then I found no use for it, so it sat around for 6 months. And then we launched the ice bath course, and now I use it religiously in the ice bath course to help explain things. And I've got that open on the screen here. So if you're watching the stream live, you can see me literally draw stuff. You can see my structure that I've quickly drawn up and what I'm following. And it just makes it a little more fun. But the reason I'm mentioning that is, isn't it funny how things work out? Like, I never had, so the universe, I'll tell you this now, like, the universe will always send you signs. And if you're open to them, you follow those signs, it'll work out. If you're not open to them, you'll miss them, and they'll keep sending signs until you do. Now, this hover cam is probably one of them where I was trying to sell it, no one bought it. I'm trying to sell it, no one bought it. And then I'm trying to use it, and actually it's added so much value. It's exactly what I've needed, and I didn't realize it for ages. Like, I used to try and do like theory-based streams when I had to make like a PowerPoint presentation on and use a mouse to draw, and it was just so clunky for me, whereas now I can literally draw and I can draw my thoughts, and it just makes it a lot more understandable for those watching. And it's just funny how things work out. Like, things meant to be when they're meant to be, and you've got to just go with the flow. Right, so more on to the point. What are we talking about tonight? Tonight we're going to be talking about energy state and personality styles. Now, I know already from the personality styles that we use. So we use something called the I3 personality. It's really on looking at the individuals versus compartmentalizing or creating biases. So very anti-bias creation. I already know that the fact that I've mentioned personality styles, there's going to be one type of, what's the word I'm looking for, trait and thinking style of person that's already going to be like, well, this is a load of nonsense, and they probably just stop listening. But that's okay, because I understand that facts and figures are more relatable to some people, whereas some people are more emotionally led. And when you start to understand these, like the one that we use is it started as a marriage guidance tool, and it's fantastic. Why do I find it fantastic? It's because interrelational elements, the marriage is a really good example, is all about communication. That's what it breaks down to. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So I can only initially communicate. If I'm not really that self-aware, if I haven't really put much thought into how other people think, I'm going to communicate with how I think people think. And I can only think how people think by the way I think, right? Because how can you think in a way that you don't know? Because you don't know what you don't know. So everyone's got their best intentions. But if you're an emotionally led person and you are trying to communicate with someone that's facts and figures and less emotionally based, there's going to be some issues because you're going to communicate in a completely different style. Some people are slow thinkers, some people are fast thinkers, and you need them all. No, there's no positive or negative to either. When we talk about diversity in teams isn't the external stuff, male, female, gay, straight, whatever race you're from, whatever religion you have. It's all about your thinking style for me. So we base off 7 different thinking styles, and I'll explain it a little bit further as we go. But you need one dominant trait in a team member. So if you have a team of 7, ideally you want each team member to have a dominant trait that's different to the other. Then your decision making will be diverse. What you need to work on is the communication and understanding everyone else's strengths. And if you can do that, you get to understand that not everyone has the strengths that you have, and you don't have the strengths that other people have. So therefore, listen, learn, stay curious, do the best you can. Now, we're going to be coupling this with energy state. So when I talk about energy state, I'd love to just know a little bit more behind it. But on the basis of what I'm talking about, energy state is the things that drain your energy versus the things that feed your energy. Now, where this helps me start off is if I understand personality styles and traits, we base off what we do. When I say we, it's like in Samson Armand, that's the corporate leadership stuff, is there's 7 traits, and your top three-ish, and if we can really dig deep into it, you want your like, what's your gift? Those things are going to feed your energy, or they're going to have the things that have the most stamina for you to think like. So you'll base your thinking type off that one. It's natural, it's subconscious, it doesn't take much effort. The further you go down in your traits, like down the order of 1 to 7, when you get to about 4 or 5 down, that's going to take like extra energy for you to think like those traits think, because they are obviously lower down. That's now, you think like they're going to be using your energy to think like. So we want you to align yourself, like your behaviors and your thinking, with your top traits, and understand when to use your bottom ones. So now, to put this in a story, because I know this sounds a bit confusing, I've planted energy states in your mind. How do we get that? What are we talking about? I'm also going to be talking about like a pendulum swing. Everything in life is on a pendulum for me. So positive neurons and negative neurons, or electrons, motivated, unmotivated, dark, light, positive, negative, energetic, tired. There's so many different examples we can think. And the trick in life with other people is being able to swing your pendulum viewpoint from what you don't like about someone to recognizing what is their gift. What is it that makes them them? What is that special thing inside of them that you can show you believe in, that they don't really recognize in themselves, or they haven't had anyone that's shown them that thing is what makes them special. That's what gives them energy. So if you can always swing the pendulum away, so like if you think about parenting, interacting with colleagues, interacting with your partner, as soon as you get annoyed, just stop and go, okay, why am I getting annoyed? What's the positive about this person? Because without that awareness, so we call them awarenesses, not weaknesses, without that awareness that you can recognize easier, or what people normally call as weaknesses, like stubborn traits or too quick to decide, rushing into decisions, without that, there is no strength. So what is that strength? Now, that's where understanding personality styles really helps, because you understand what strengths comes with what awarenesses, and what awarenesses comes with strengths, and you can swing that pendulum to the positive. Now, back to my story. So how are you going to remember these 7 traits? Is I like to base it off the book of the Chimp Paradox, where you've got the human, the computer, and the chimp. So the computer is the like most powerful thing. It's the system that runs everything. You don't need to think about it. It just cracks on. And then you've got the human, which is logical, non-emotive, the friendly bit that, like, if you interact with someone new, you're probably going to be interacting human to human. And then you've got the chimp. The chimp is, in the book, says 25 times stronger than the human, but both of these are feeding the computer. Now, if you want to talk about like inner child stuff, they say that the computer has what they call gremlins, and these things are constantly breaking wires and breaking the coding and everything. We've got to try and identify the gremlins and get them out. But that's not the point of this story. If you've got chimps in your brain, 25 times stronger, I want us to think about the human as an observer or a coach, for a sports analogy here. And it's not just one chimp that you have in your mind, it's 7 according to the traits that we have. You can use any personality style and just apply, if it's insights, the 5 colors they have to different chimps, which just gives you a good mental structure. For those of you that listened to previous episodes, I'm talking about mental structures here. Like, what does that mean? Direction. How do we understand the different types of chimps we have in our head so that we can listen to them and get the best out of ourselves? A sporting analogy would be the human in this equation needs to be the coach. So the coach needs to know how to play the star players versus the bench players. Now, obviously, your star players can play for a lot longer. They perform a lot better. They're the ones that you as the coach just get. They really are into your system. They're fit. They're the ones that work really hard. They buy into where the coach wants to go. And then you've got your bench players. They're really keen, but they obviously don't get as much game time, so they burn out a lot quicker. Now, we need to know when to use our bench players, and we also need to know, as the humans in this energy state management model that I'm talking about here, is you don't want to play your bench players all the time. You want to be able to play your star players and recognize that, and only call on your bench players at times that they need. So where I go back to this chimp analogy, if you're coaching 7 superstar chimps that play American football, or coach, like, you can only play 4 of them or 3 of them at a time, and you've got to swap in some stars for some bench players. And this is when I talk about like managing your energy states. If you're currently doing a job or things in life where that thinking style and the behavior that's needed is not your strength, you are going to be using a bench player, which is going to be draining a lot quicker. They don't have as much stamina. They don't have as much energy to give. So they're not giving you energy. Whereas if you can align your thinking, your behaviors, your outer world with your inner world, you are literally feeding your star players energy because they are getting what they need from the outer world. I can't go into too much depth, but let's just say one of the chimps would be knowledgeable, researchful, likes knowing a lot about a lot, very, very motivated by facts and figures. One chimp would probably be caring, relational, compassionate, just like they really focus on people. Like that's all their decisions are focused towards people. Then you have this like positive vocal chimp that just loves encouraging. Like they get body language off of doing good things for people because they like to see people achieving things. Then you get the chimp that's bold, intuitive, quick thinking side, where they go by gut feel, they make quick judgments. That's the very interesting chimp. Then you get this industrious, value-based chimp that loves giving. But in order to give, pendulum swing here, they have to know how to get. So you've got this chimp that has the ability to get and give, can come across as, say, like giving and stingy at the same time. It can be so confusing sometimes. And then you've got this like detail-focused, hands-on, team-based chimp that loves to just serve, loves to just go, work really hard, fix other people's problems, and make sure that everyone around them's happy. And then the last chimp that we kind of mentioned here is this visionary, goal-orientated, super vocal leader-type chimp that wants to have control. So if you can understand those on a basic level, like how do we get the best out of ourselves, raising awareness, and making sure that we're utilizing our star players according to what's in line with who we are, then you're going to be onto something. Now, I want to talk just about, I've covered the personality traits, the chimps. I want to talk about our energy state. So when it comes to energy state, this is slightly different. This is where we talk about comfort zone, and we bring the chimp back in. So the original analogy of one chimp, one human, 25 times stronger. That chimp likes his nest. That chimp likes to make sure they're comfortable. It's a survival instinct at the end of the day. The chimp likes to survive. It's making sure that you're not jumping off a cliff. You need this chimp in your life. Now, when we talk about energy state, that chimp's energy is drained when you're stretching your comfort zone and you've got that chimp out of your comfort zone. So you think about anxious people, anxiety, or like just the mental kind of disempowered state that you can find yourself sometimes in. That's when your chimp is really backing into a really small comfort zone, and any bit of prodding, pushing, pulling is going to make that chimp react and use a lot of energy. So we want to understand, like, you can stretch your comfort zone, but it's got to be stretched to a point that's comfortable so that you can grow the comfort zone. Whereas if you overstretch, what happens is you put this chimp in a panic zone. So like he can no longer, or she can no longer touch this comfort zone nest that it's made. So it's kind of feeling out in the blue, out in the open, and it puts them in a panic state, which then starts to shrink the comfort zone because they know once that chimp goes back in there, it's going to go back in there, it's going to stay there, it's going to be harder to get it out. So you have to really be able to find the balance to get the best out of your energy state without stretching yourself too far, but without not stretching yourself. And it's tricky because I'm not going to give you exact measure, exact actions. This is kind of where you have to be super introspective. You have to really understand your energy states and have things around you that help you push through times when you've got genuine resistance versus times when you're actually just burning the candle at both ends. And this comes with practice. This comes with making mistakes. This comes with trying hard. This comes with not trying hard and seeing what you achieve, and really just assessing as you go along. Now, what I want to talk about in conjunction with that is mental set points. Now, this is fascinating. I heard this talked about in, was it a podcast or a book? I can't remember which one it was. I think it was a book. And I've always known there were 3 set points. I can't find much research on it. I mean, you'll see why. And one of the set points was the temperature which your body stays at. So like some people just run warm, some people just run cold. Then the other set point is, say, the fat store, like how much fat your body stores on any given basis. That's why you can see some people eat a load of nonsense and they just don't put on weight. Some people don't eat that much and they put on weight. Now, for me, this comes down to set point. It's what your body is used to. So you could almost call it like a metabolic set point. But think of it like a thermostat in your body. You set that thermostat to, say, 18 degrees in a house. That house is always going to turn on the radiators or turn them off depending on whether that temperature is fluctuating, but it wants it at 18 degrees. So the set point works the same in your body for heat. It works the same in your body for like that metabolic or fat store set point. And I think that there's ways you can manipulate that by what you eat, if you're fasting, what you're breaking your fast with, the order in which you eat food, that all can manipulate that body point, set points, which is always fascinating. It's something that really is always in the back of my mind. But what I heard about the other day, and was the third one, this answered a key, and it obviously jumped out at me because my brain's like, oh, that's the one we've been waiting for, and I wasn't looking for it. Again, universe delivers. And it was the mental set point. And I was like, yes, of course. So if you think about where your comfort zone is currently, and you look at someone that's achieved something way more than you have, and you go like, oh, I could never do that. And then someone says to you, well, actually, think about where you were a year ago. And you look back and you're like, jeez, you know what, you're right. I can't believe how far I've come. I can't believe that I'm this person that's achieving all of this, considering where, if I thought about where I was a year ago, I would say I'll never be able to do that. And this is because you've repeated something over and over and over again, and you've put yourself in a position over and over again where your new mental set point is just at a higher level, and you can start to achieve more. So I always use an example of, say, a CEO. If you were to stick an 18-year-old into a highly corporate CEO position, they would not, if they were talented, they would not be able to keep that up because there's just so much that they have to learn so quickly. They're using up this internal energy state and they don't have time to refresh it over and over again. But through experience, through time, through mistakes, through working their way up through the organization, people can become very good CEOs and they can handle pressure so easily because they're just used to it. Their set point is a lot higher. The point of understanding this theory is that it just shows that we can apply this to anything in our lives and know that as long as we are aiming to keep that set point set and keep it rising up, you can get into a position where you can maintain a higher standard of day-to-day routines, a higher standard of life, if you keep trying and you keep keeping up your mental fitness, if that makes sense. So like the same way you'd scale up, like we talked about scale in the consistency model previously, you've got to scale up your mental set point. And you've got to do that by being consistent small to build up. Then eventually you'll be able to have the mental fitness to be able to keep going. Now, how to balance this? So again, it's that mental mention, the pendulum here. So the swing between really pushing yourself and taking it easy, really pushing yourself and take it easy. So I'm going to try and describe to you what I'm drawing so that the people watching can actually understand what I'm drawing. Now, I'm going to draw a dot on my screen. And this dot is going to represent the comfort zone, which is going to be titled CS. Then when we want to change, so there's some, like you think about the consistency model we talked about, it's called desire. So I've got a goal that's one end of the comfort zone. So we're about top 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, if we're looking about a clock reference, and about maybe 10 centimeters away from that comfort zone that we've drawn. And then the same on the opposite side. So now we've got the pendulum swing. Now, if we were to draw a line, like an orbit, so now we're talking like solar system with the gravity pull, this comfort zone circle that I've originally drawn becomes a gravity pull. So it becomes the planet that we're trying to make bigger. And we draw a line around it as if we've got some comet that's coming past the planet, reaching an endpoint and then slinging back and then going back. So it's going between these 2 points. And then I'm going to draw arrows on this line that the comet, the route that the comet takes, and this is going to emphasize the energy and the direction. Now, when it comes to managing our energy state, we have to be very aware of when we're stretching the comfort zone, that sling back, that comeback is going to be a lot quicker. So closer to our comfort zone, it's going to feel quite comfortable because we know the comfort zone's there. So we don't want to stop here. We've got to keep pushing out. At some point, it's going to feel like we're at our end. We're at extreme. At that point, we've got to understand that the pullback is coming, and often this is where failure comes. So people reach the point where they can't go anymore, and then they just stop. If you just stop, it's going to take you right back into your comfort zone, and you're going to crash into your planet. But what we've got to do is try and navigate that. We use the planet as a reload. So now we're talking about the pendulum swing of knowing when to push, when to pull. So if we're coming back past using the gravity pull of the planet, we're going to sling past the planet, almost pick up some energy as we go. So we're by the comfort zone. We've scaled down a bit. We've relaxed a little bit. And then we're going to keep going again. And as long as we know that we keep going, we're going to reach another endpoint, the other side, and we're going to sling back towards the planet, and we'll be on the other side here. So I'm hoping I've got a good image description of you. So eventually what I see is the comfort zone is the planet, and then it's got this orbit pathway around it, and it's got the 2 dots either end of that orbit pathway. And this is the point where we recognize that we're stretching our comfort zone. As long as we keep doing this, we can then start to expand that planet, which is expanding the comfort zone, till eventually our comfort zone is stretched to the point that our old stretch points, like the extreme of where we used to sling back, is now our new comfort zone. And the next change comes in exactly the same pattern. So we've got to then start to create an even bigger orbit now. So now you see we're kind of talking about that scale element that we've talked about. You've got to start small, scale up, start small, scale up. But if you were trying to achieve that end goal scale, goal, so like you want to be a CEO at 19, that's going to take a hell of a lot of mental energy. That's probably going to sling you straight back into the planet. But if you understand the steps that you have to take and you have to just keep going, you've got to be consistent and manage your energy state by going out away from your comfort zone. Again, the arrow is going out and then coming back and slinging past. So if you've ever played any space games where you use the sun as your fuel source, you go past the sun and you scoop the sun for some energy, and then you keep going on your pathway. So you almost are just navigating around the comfort zone and never really going back in to settle or to land. But you want to come close enough that it feels a bit comfortable again. This for me is how I would describe like an energy state, and how we can understand it from a visual reference, that you've got to push, you've got to pull, you've got to come back to your comfort zone sometimes, and then you've got to go again. But as long as you keep taking action, keep taking steps, you will grow your comfort zone. So the golden thread of the high performance triangle, which I'm hoping that we've actually talked about, I need to double check, where I mention, the importance of structures and the importance of discipline to stick to your structures. Those structures are basically just steps that you can take, that steps that you can keep taking in order to grow your comfort zone. If we can grow our comfort zone, it takes less energy to do the same things as long as we keep trying it. I'm going to mention no more. I think that's been quite a lot. We're now 22 minutes in. I'm really hoping that I've created an understanding around, personality styles. If you are now this comfort zone analogy that I've just shown or just tried to describe to you, and we've got a rocket that's flying around this spaceship, right? Who's the astronaut? You want to make sure that your top chimp is the astronaut because they're going to stay awake the whole time. If you're using one of the lower end chimps, they're going to be very distracted. They're going to run out of energy and they're going to go straight back into that comfort zone if you're going to make them the pilot. So it's about understanding, like, where do you put your star players in, making sure you use those in conjunction with your bench players. You can be anything you want to be, but you're making sure that you're managing energy state. You know when to come back, you know when to reload, you know when to go again. It's really important to understand, like, what are your energy givers, what are your energy takers. So I'm laying a foundation here. So if you're listening to this far, we're going to be talking about my identity model in a future episode, and I'm going to be referencing the energy state here. It's going to be very important to remember this. There's a few golden threads to go to build the foundations that will really help us understand how we manage our own mental energy, how we get the best out of ourselves, how we keep growth mindset, how we stop going to fixed mindset, how we stay above the line versus below the line. And they're all quite like key fundamental elements to, identity human. How do we get the best out of ourselves? And it just comes through understanding. And it's these I can almost guarantee you, like, once I've done 15 episodes and covered all my foundational elements, you're not going to gain much more from these podcasts. I can almost guarantee you, if you understand them all. And then I'm just going to start repeating things. I'm going to start making sure that we understand that the discipline in life and the achievement doesn't come from overcomplicating things or trying really special things. The discipline comes from keeping things simple. And these models and these things that I talk about in the episodes here, they are where you got to keep it simple, because it is as simple as taking steps. It is as simple as keeping action. And I heard a saying the other day that said, if you find yourself in hell, keep walking, because if you don't walk, you're going to be stuck in hell. But if you walk, at least you're going to find yourself in a different space and eventually get yourself out of it. And that's the point, is like, we've got to keep moving. We've got to keep action. So yeah, I'm going to stop there. That's a lot of information to understand. We've covered two things. We've talked about personalities, energy state, and I've really enjoyed it. We probably will redo this in another episode, because every time you talk, you listen to yourself talk and you learn. So if you've got any feedback, if you do listen to this weekly and you didn't quite understand it, please just put it in the comments. Like, I'm not taking offense. Remember, like, I do my own jingle as an intro. There's no pride, there's no ego in this. I'm generally here to talk, bring you on a journey, learn from you, see how I can communicate better, and just get the most effective, the world's most popular unproduced podcast as the end goal. So I appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate the fact that you've listened all the way to now. I'm super grateful for you. And I'm going to sign off with the same thing we sign off every week, is Ubuntu. Remember, that means we are who we are through others. I am because you are. But don't give away your bricks. So be a bit selfish. Make sure that you're looking after yourself. If you can give the best of yourself, you will get the best of others. If you don't give the best of yourself, it'll be harder to get the best from others because they are not getting the best from anyone. Let your light shine. You are powerful beyond measure. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye.